Welcome to Florida History, the Civil Rights Movement. In this Let's Play, we'll walk through how this classroom simulation works and how your students can explore Florida's past by stepping into the shoes of real civil rights leaders in a divided town during one of the most important struggles in American history. The Civil Rights Movement is an interactive role-play game where students work in teams to help desegregate a fictional Florida town named Cypress Springs. Each team takes on a specific role, like student protesters, lawyers, ministers, or journalists, and works to grow public support and reduce government resistance over time. Their goal is to integrate the city, one action, 1 year, and one tough decision at a time. In this game, students are grouped into teams, and each team is assigned a role. The role sheet gives a description of who they are, what actions they can take each turn, and how their actions affect the game. Some actions are easier, but less impactful. Others are riskier, but can shift the whole city. Teams can only take one action per round, so they'll need to choose wisely. The 5 roles teams in this game are student organizers, church leaders, NAACP legal team, black business owners, and journalists and media allies. Each team represents a real part of the civil rights movement, and each one has its own strengths and strategy. Each round of the game represents a real year between 1954 and 1970. To begin the round, you'll read that year's Florida Gazette, a fictional newspaper that highlights real historical events like the Tallahassee bus boycott, the Civil Rights Act, or Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. The newspaper sets the scene and includes discussion questions for students to talk through before they take action. So let's walk through a sample round of 1960. The Gazette talks about Ruby Bridges integrating a school in New Orleans, sit-ins at lunch counters, and the violence of Axe Handle Saturday in Jacksonville. Each Florida Gazette also has a discussion guide that will help students reflect on how the information in the Gazette impacts their own town of Cypress Springs. You can use all of the included discussion questions, pick and choose your favorites, or even use some of them as short response questions. Next, you show how some of these events impact the mood in Cypress Springs by adjusting the public support and government resistance. In 1960, the Miami sit-ins increased public support by 10%, but didn't really have any impact on the government in Cypress Springs. Axe Handle Saturday lowered public support by 5% and increased government resistance by 10%. The public was scared and the government took advantage of that. Based on the actions in the first 3 rounds, public support is at 60% in this playthrough, and government resistance is at 60% as well. With the most recent historical developments, those numbers change to 65% for public support and 70% for government resistance. This means that when students roll to determine the success of their actions, they will not get any bonuses or penalties since public support would have given them a +1, but government resistance would give them a -1. Then each team chooses their actions. The student organizers are going to decide to lead a protest march. The church leaders plan to preach about civil rights. The business owners call for a boycott of a local diner. The journalists choose to publish an article exposing the injustice of segregation in the pools. The NAACP plans to file a lawsuit. Each of these actions has a difficulty level, easy, moderate, or hard, and each one affects either public support, government resistance, or the integration of the town if it is successful. Now it's time to roll. Let's say the student organizers roll a 4. The action has a moderate difficulty, which means they succeed if they roll a 4 or higher. They made it. Because they succeeded, the government resistance drops by 5%. The church leaders' actions is moderate difficulty. They need to roll a 4 or better to be successful. Unfortunately, they rolled a 2, so their preaching falls on deaf ears. The business owners rolled a 3. Their action was a moderate difficulty, so they also are not able to integrate the diner this turn. The journalists are publishing an article trying to integrate the pool. This action is also a moderate difficulty. They rolled a 4, so they successfully integrated the pool. The NAACP's lawsuit is a hard action. They need a 5 or 6 to succeed. They rolled a 2. That action fails. For each of the failures, there are realistic setback descriptions that you can choose from that help the failure mean more than just a bad roll of the die. For example, when the church leaders preached, white congregations could have rejected the calls for unity and refused to engage in dialogue or support integration. This way, even failures tell the story. Once every team has rolled, you update the public support and government resistance trackers. Each point of movement brings you closer to or further from your goal of integrating Cypress Springs. Teams can also keep track of what businesses, public spaces, or institutions they've integrated by recording them on their game sheet. This turn, the student organizers successfully lowered government resistance by 5%, bringing it down to 65%. The journalists were able to integrate the Cypress Springs Pool and Park. That location can be added to their list of integrated businesses on their roll sheets. With that, the round ends and you move forward to the next year, whether it's 1962, 64, 66, and so on, and you get to watch the story unfold. The game ends when you reach 1970 or when students achieve full integration by reaching public support of 90% or higher and government resistance of 10% or lower. There's also a final discussion guide to help students reflect on what they learned, what strategies worked, and what the real-life movement had to overcome. Florida history, the civil rights movement, is standards aligned and built for fourth grade classrooms. But more importantly, it's designed to spark empathy, strategy, and deep understanding. Your students won't just learn about the civil rights movement. They'll live through the choices, face the obstacles, and decide what kind of community they want to build. Thanks for watching. Ready to speak truth, take action, and make history? Let's play.